It's raining like crazy. Alright, so I might as well make a video. I don't think I'm going to get too much done today. Alright, I tried to make a video last night, but it didn't come out the way I wanted, so I thought, okay, well, I'll rethink it. See how I do it. Okay, immigration in Canada. The problem we have with the immigration in Canada is there's way too many people coming in. Now, before you, those who might be joining in, for the first time, okay, we'll just say racist, bigot, all that stuff, xenophobe, homophobe, whatever, phobe, okay, fine. Get that out of the way. But the idea about this is to really get the conversation going, because there really is no conversation on immigration in Canada. And it's done that way purposely by pretty much all parties. Either the parties are altruistic and want to give their country to every starving Marvin out there, or they're globalist and greedy and want to undercut the labor. And we're going to discuss this. I don't think this is good for Canada, and we can see in Europe how multiculturalism and that has failed pretty much big time. I'm not saying nobody's integrated in Europe or whatever, and I'm not saying you can't have any immigration, but the way we used to do it was tap on, tap off. Meaning if we needed people, we brought them in. If we don't need them, we don't bring them in. And right now, we really don't need anybody. We have a shrinking economy, and it's soon to get worse. Canada is now entering what I call the 2008 phase. We never really hit the 2008 crisis like everybody else did, because even though love them or hate them, Harper did have us in a better position to weather that kind of storm. So we were the last ones in the recessions and the first ones out of the recession. And we only dealt with a recession. Some people are dealing with a depression in their countries and still dealing with it. Extreme high unemployment, whatever. Our employment is, I think, 6.9% now. Economy basically shrank by 1.6%. So I think that's going to become the new norm. And, but it's not even just about the economy. There's a lot of points to make here. The first one I'll start with is, what is the Canadian Immigration Act? Well, with the previous government, we have to go back even a couple of governments. We'll go back to the Pierre Elliott Trudeau government, basically Justin Trudeau's dad. He wanted this multiculturalism thing, so basically opened up the borders basically to bring in 130,000 people a year. And this is back in the 1970s, early 1980s when this happened. And that was a problem. Then we had John Turner and Kim Campbell, and then Brian Mulroney. Or did John Turner, I can't remember if he ever was Prime Minister. I don't think he was. I know we had Kim Campbell for a short time anyway. And then we got Brian Mulroney. Now, Brian Mulroney, under NAFTA, really screwed the country over. Again, it was kind of the beginning of extreme globalism for Canada, which took all the manufacturing here, sent it over to China, or down to the States, that type of thing. And had we not done NAFTA the way it was done, who knows what kind of jobs we would have here now. I think the potential for Canada is better than any country in the world if you turn the economy inward, meaning, low taxes for small businesses, etc., etc. But we didn't do that. We went with the globalist model. So basically, then Chrétien comes along. He changes the Immigration Act a little bit, and now you have to understand NAFTA does play into this too because of insourcing and outsourcing, which insourcing and outsourcing means no Canadian jobs, lost Canadian. But that was mostly the outsourcing. The insourcing is the immigration coming in, and how that plays out is basically Chrétien, basically the lawyer firms that he's linked to, and most of these politicians are lawyers, and that's the problem. Is that they keep creating law for the sake of law, but they also find ways to cheat the system. Even Paul Martin did it with the shipping scandals, and they're all a bunch of crooks, right? That's why you need a nationalist party that'll actually take care of the country first, audit these people, put them in jail for their criminal deeds. Just because you change the law to be able to rip people off, you have to look at the morality of the law as well. Is it a just law? Even Pierre Elliott Trudeau, put in some laws that were supposed to be fail-safes, which were not too bad. But that guy did a lot of damage to the country and started the ball rolling. So Chrétien comes along, and with his law firms, immigration law firms, basically you have these law firms that they help. I'm not sure exactly how the $23 billion of our immigration is spent, but one thing I do know is they go through these immigration lawyers or whatever, And when an immigrant becomes a citizen, they get a $50,000 bonus. Now, obviously, that $50,000 bonus is probably not coming from these immigrants. It's probably coming from the taxpayer like you and me. That's why they would want mass immigration. So right there's a scam. It's not in the best interest of the people. Now, the way they sell it is cultural enrichment by multiculturalism. Now, I would like to put this out. Anybody that says multiculturalism enriches us, ask them to clarify. They won't be able to do it. Because it's just a tagline. It's just a buzzword, a slogan that they throw out there. Oh, no, it enriches us. But how? And as we get into this, we'll see. And again, I'm not anti-immigrant. I'm not anti-immigration. But I think it needs to be very... if we don't want to run into the problems that you're seeing in Europe or, in the southern United States borders, stuff like that, we have to have a stricter system. So then Harper comes along, and Immigration Minister Jason Kenney revamps the whole Immigration Act, which I gotta say he did a bang-up job on that. Was it perfect? No, but I thought it was fair. The big problem is he went from 130,000 people coming in to 250,000 people, 250,000. And we bring in even more than that when we don't need these people. So the question is, why are we bringing these people in? Well, some of it was labor. So you could bring in temporary foreign workers for 15% less than a Canadian worker. So what were companies doing? Laying people off and hiring all these foreigners. We saw it in BC. We saw it was the Royal Bank or whichever one it was going to lay off 5,000 people and bring in all these temporary foreign workers. In other words, undercut the labor, which drives wages down. So again, that's bad immigration right there. There's some people out there, yeah, but you have to let, if you drive wages down, it makes things cheaper and better for consumption and stuff like that. But it gets to the point where you can't shop where you work. And the fact that we have a service-based economy, we have very little manufacturing left in Canada. We do have a fair amount, but it's not like what it was. Now, I'm not sure manufacturing is the only future for Canada. Because there are so many unexplored things, such as the internet economy. I mean, I'm a part of it. I didn't even realize it. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that we have to go back to, coal plants and stuff like that. No, but what I'm saying is that the jobs should stay here first. Now, when you hear the argument, well, we have to bring in immigrants because they'll work the cheap labor jobs that citizens won't. My official answer to that is that's BS. That is BS, BS, BS. You hear that claim in the States all the time. You hear that claim here. Oh, it's only the immigrants that'll work the cheap jobs. The Canadians are too proud to work those jobs. That is BS. That is total BS. That is total BS. Why? Yes, if you go to a community where it's majority minorities and you go into a fast food restaurant, yes, you're going to see a majority minorities in the kitchen. You go to in a city where it's more multicultural, look at who's working at the Tim Hortons. It's probably as many white Canadians and natives and whatever as it is anybody else. It's first come, first serve. Whoever can get the job first gets the job. So this idea that we have to have immigration because these people won't work the jobs. If the wages are too astronomically low, no, people move on. It's a high turnover rate. But with welfare recipients, you could have a workfare program. One of the things that I disagree with by bringing in temporary foreign labor and driving wages down is that it doesn't keep up with the cost of living, and these people don't get out of their rut. And I think if somebody does have to come in from a foreign country, because there are circumstances where I could see temporary foreign labor, but I'm talking about jobs where nobody has those skills but somebody living over there somewhere, then yeah, you can bring them in. But until that, like for a fast food restaurant, you don't need to bring in immigrants for fast food restaurants. And the reason why the wages never go up in the fast food restaurants is because they keep using this kind of labor. Now people say, yeah, but if we get more expensive employees, the food prices will go up and they'll lose business. Well, I don't know. Okay, go back to 1997 or 2007. Price out a Big Mac at McDonald's. Not that I eat McDonald's, but and then price it out now. It's went up. You know what I mean? It's went up anyway, and they're not paying anybody anymore. So that's kind of a non-argument. It might have held true at one point, but it's not. Rising tide floats all boats. So if the reason why people won't work those jobs is because they don't pay well enough. And if you keep bringing in people that'll work for less and less, all you do is just create more poverty because these people can never get out of the rut. So you're not doing them the service you think you're doing them. Therefore, I think immigrants should be paid 15% more. Now, they did add a bit of a head tax of something like $2,500 for temporary foreign workers to slow down this abuse, which I agree with the head tax. I totally agree with the head tax for that kind of thing. That way, it does keep businesses honest. You're not going to bring in somebody and spend that kind of money unless they necessarily have to. In fact, I would up it to probably a $10,000 head tax for temporary foreign workers. Again, the only people that are going to pay that are big business. And but we'd have to watch that doesn't get scammed either. But the idea is that they pick from the Canadian pool first. And we keep finding time and time again that we're just handing stuff to newcomers to Canada, at the cost of the people. Now, for those out there say, yeah, but Canada's a wealthy country, we could spread the wealth. Well, we're not that wealthy. The statistics, again, with the economy the way it is, we're starting to digress. Yes, under the Harper government, it was a little harder to pick on it because, yes, at 7 out of 10 years, the economy was growing. Yes, it was growing small. Trudeau was complaining that it wasn't growing fast enough. It was growing. And if you understand, most people don't understand what kind of financial climate we're really in. And I'm not a financial expert, but I do follow this stuff, so I do know how bad the world economy actually is. Many are, in the States, 1 in 6 working age males between 25 and 52 is out of work. 1 in 6. And then if you add up all the people that are out of work, it's like 94, 96 million people. A third of they're in a depression, and they don't know. Now there are areas that are doing good, but still. But getting back to Canada, our unemployment rate isn't as bad yet, but all the spoils from the previous government have pretty much disappeared. The Trudeau's blasted through in 1 month $9 billion, and we don't nothing to show for it. And he hasn't even started his stimulus program yet. So it's just going to go bad to worse. We're going to be like 2008. This is really going to hurt us, that type of thing. And meanwhile, we're bringing in people, and in order to bribe these people to vote for the Liberal government or vote left or whatever, it's going to come at the cost of our health care, our retirement, etc., etc. It already does, because government is either or. You can pay for this or you can pay for that. You can pay for both, but you'll have to divide the money, right? There's only so much to go around. So with the Harper government, Jason Kennedy basically revamped the Immigration Act to have a higher standard. So we were getting a higher quality of immigrant than just about any other country in the world. 84% were coming in for work. The rest were like students and extended family, but we were getting much less extended family. And people who wanted to bring in an extended family had to pay for the family to come in, that type of thing. So it wasn't completely on the taxpayer's dime. You couldn't just come in and claim, like old people couldn't just come in and claim pension. They had to be in the country for XYZ amount of years, like a decade or something. It was better. I mean, there's some of those things that I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to come here, at 60 and then 5 years later claim a pension, that's not fair to the Canadian taxpayer. I don't think that should be allowed. So, plus they deported something like 6,000 people or whatever it was that weren't following the rules, which was good. They cleaned up the Immigration Act a lot, finding false claimants, that type of thing. They did make it a lot quicker to become a Canadian, Canadian immigrant, or a Canadian citizen or whatever. So they did that. Where they went wrong is, the two things I want to change is, number one, the numbers. We don't need 250,000 people coming in. But however, yes, the Harper government was a globalist one. So was the Trudeau one. But, Harper was globalist, fascist. So is the Trudeau government. It's just one was a little more to the left, a little more to the right. I know people challenge me on that. But when you have big government and business and corporations in bed together, you have fascism. And that's clearly all these governments seem to cater to. Justin Trudeau's no different. Just look at what he's been doing all week, right? That type of thing. So anchor babies is still a problem. Now, Justin Trudeau has opened up something like 7 or 10 new passport offices in China. So we're going to be flooded with Chinese immigrants like crazy. Nothing against the Chinese, but we don't need them. So anchor baby tourism is going to skyrocket like you wouldn't believe. And what that is basically if you get a foot on our shore and you pop out a baby, that baby's a Canadian. But that, I think, is disingenuous. I think it should default back to whatever the parent is. The other thing was with the student visas and stuff like that. I'm not too far against student visas. I don't mind if somebody comes here for a 4-year term, going to school, as long as it's on their own dime. I'm really not against that. And then they can go home. that type of thing. I'm not against that. The temporary foreign workers, again, special circumstances. But I mean, we were getting strippers coming in. Okay, great, we got exotic strippers from around the world, temporary foreign workers. But no, I think things like that, fast food restaurants should not be allowed to hire temporary foreign workers. I'm talking specialty jobs, a rare surgeon, something like that, rocket scientist that only works in one department, that type of thing. Really high-tech jobs. That's the only thing temporary foreign workers should be used for. Because what we saw in Alberta was, like for the gas pipelines and stuff like that, that they were bringing in temporary foreign workers, again paying them 15% less, putting Canadians out of work. Not fair to Canadians. And the fact that Canadians have to pay for these people to get here. The other thing is the cost of immigrants coming in. This is why you can't do the fact that you have these companies that are getting $50,000, these lawyers getting $50,000 for, per Canadian citizen, naturalized citizen or whatever, however you say it, immigrant, getting citizenship. That there is very wrong, because that just completely rips the wealth out of the hands of Canadians. And again, 48%, if I didn't say it, I thought I said it, but maybe I didn't. 48% of Canadians are struggling paycheck to paycheck. 15%, retirement's not even an option for them. Like me, my dad should be retired right now. He should be at home, having a nap, but he's out at work. He's 65. You know what I mean? Pensions are too low. While pensions are too low, while you're giving $50,000, I mean, that's billions of, again, $23 billion into the immigration system. I'm not exactly sure how it's spent, so I'd have to look into that. But I'm against that. So what would be a better solution? Now, I am nationalist, a Canadian nationalist, a more cultural nationalist than ethno-nationalist. So some people take that as offensive right away, but I don't think so, because I put Canada first. The thing is Justin Trudeau wants to bring in 500,000 people a year. Now, last year we brought in 300,000, almost 300, or 285,000, something like that. Again, with an economy that can't sustain that, which strains every service you could think of, which expands government, which becomes insolvent because government is already too big for its boots in Canada. Yes, under the Harper government, they expanded government way too much. They did balance the budget, but with an expanded government, it keeps taxes too high, which the cost of living is too high, and it doesn't give enough money to go around for actual services that Canadians might need. It ends up in globalized money, which really isn't helping us out at all. So there's that. The other thing, especially the niqab and the hijab here in Canada, that's still a top issue. People taking a citizenship or going to testify in court or whatever have to show their face. They have to. How they keep dodging this one is because the political parties that bring it in, like the Conservatives, gained a lot of seats here in Quebec over the niqab issue. It's a populist issue. But I think from a point of view, if people are coming in and they're not willing to bend to our rules, they're not integrating. And if they're not integrating, that is a culture clash in the making. Maybe not today, but 8-10 years down the road, we have a problem with these people. And right now, we live in a kind of a crazy global climate. There's no doubt about that. Yes, global Islamification is a problem. You can call me again a xenophobe or what, Islamophobe, fine. But again, if you look at Islamic countries, these are not countries that have the same values as Canada, that type of thing. So being too inclusive, again, we're slitting our own throats here, that type of thing. So yes, when people come in, if they want to take the citizen oath here in Canada, they have to remove that. No, we should not have the RCMP, allowing the niqabs and hijabs and turbans and stuff like that. No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't be doing that. Why? Because that undermines our culture. It doesn't enrich our culture. It undermines it. It takes away our core values. It's nothing personal against those people, but those people have to understand you are coming to a country. When in Rome, you have to do as the Romans. So, as a nationalist, I look at it that way. I don't care who comes here as long as you fit in. You can still have your culture and stuff like that, but in certain ceremonies or other things such as testifying. There's very few areas where we should enforce that. In your daily life, knock yourself out, but your religion is your religion. Yes, you have the right to freedom of expression, religion and expression. Sure. But again, your rights end where others people's begin. But I think when it comes to the nation, the culture of the nation should be dominant, and it shouldn't waver from that, or we won't have a value system. The other problem is when you flood in too many people too fast, and that's the problem with our immigration system. Is we haven't hit the saturation level yet. So when people make a case for multiculturalism, they usually point to Canada. At one time, they pointed it to Brazil. It doesn't really work anymore in Brazil. They used to point to Sweden. It's definitely not working in Sweden or Germany or France or whatever. They've got a lot of problems going on right now, and pick a European country that's dealing with these crises because of the people that can't integrate, even or won't integrate. Pick one, And integration is the most important part of immigration. People, the way tap on, tap off used to work was, you bring in a generation, and you'd skip it. You bring in, say, people for 10 years, and then you'd cut it off for 10 years, 15 years, whatever it was, to let the next generation, become, okay, the second generations still have a bit of the old world left in them, type of thing, and then by the third generation, they're fully integrated into your society, and everything's homogeneous. And then you have, really, it becomes a monoculture culturally. Ethnically, you have multiculturalism. So in that case, you can almost say that would work. And that's the way it was done, and it was kind of working to a degree. But because we have really crazy people at the helm that are, they're stuck in you have to understand, the westernized countries replaced traditional religions like Christianity or whatever with progressivism. And they're as deeply religious as they were before. It's just the new ideology is this crazy cultural Marxist leftism, that progressivism, which I call it the new communism or cultural Marxism, pick one. And because of that, it's the cognitive dissonance on the, cannot see the forest for the trees. Okay, if we do this, this is going to lead to this. They just look at it as we have to do this because some of it's virtue signaling. The rest is just mindless. We have to do it because it's politically correct. It's a part of the religion. I don't look at it. I look at it more realistic. I'm like, okay, we're not bad now, but at this rate, and if we go up to 500,000 people per year, we're talking 250 million people, or 2.5 million people per decade, now going up to 5 million people a decade, maybe even more. Unsustainable. It's already unsustainable. Jobs aren't there. There's not enough beds for the elderly. Veterans are sleeping on the streets. Natives don't have running water on the reserves, and all kinds of other problems. Retirement isn't there. It's just, we don't need anybody right now. We really don't. It's not even about, helping this person or helping that person. We can't even help ourselves. So that we have to shut immigration off for at least a decade, and then assess at the end of the decade whether we need anybody or not. I don't think we would for probably 30 years because of the amount of people we've been bringing in. Now, for government, they look at it as, the more people, we got to make government bigger because we have to have rail systems, we have to have all this stuff because, the cities are congested. We need to build more public housing because, there's not enough places for people to live. If we slow it down a bit, stop the mass immigration, trust me, a lot of those problems go away. Problem is government is invested in those problems. Meaning, if they don't have a reason to do that, they don't have a job, right? This is why you need a nationalist government. There are government employees that you have to let go. We have just way too much government. It's not needed. Government was supposed to be brought in to get people on their feet and then go away. And that's what government needs to get back to. From a nationalist point of view, that's what I would see. I'm going to do a series on nationalism anyway, so this might be the first one, because the Immigration Act does need to be overhauled in Canada. I think we need to shut off immigration. Now, as far as the Syrian refugees coming in, just to give you an idea, and trust me, more people are against it than for it. First off, these aren't refugees. They came from a place of safety. What a refugee is somebody who flees from one country to the next, a war-torn country or a persecution or whatever, into the next safe country. And as soon as they get to that safe country, they are now an economic migrant, or maybe a migrant anyway. They're no longer a refugee because they're somewhere safe. So they're not fleeing at this point. At this point, they're just looking for the better welfare system, which is what they're doing. So you have all these Syrian refugees, about 30,000 that came in. Trudeau wants to bring in something like 80,000 by the 80-some-odd thousand a year, something like that. John McClellan was talking about it. that guy is a complete moron. And some of them now are having to use food banks. So they brought the people in at tremendous cost to the Canadian taxpayer. So again, there goes your retirement, your paved roads and stuff like that. It all has to come out of somewhere. So when you have an 18-hour wait in the hospital, an average wait time in the hospital, that's where it comes from. Is the system is, it's not sustainable. So they brought in all these Syrian refugees at tremendous cost per refugee. They're giving them pretty much welfare right away, obviously, because they don't have jobs. And even if they do get jobs, I mean, these people, most of them are not going to speak English well enough to be able to integrate in most jobs. So these people, they're really not going to be of value to the country. So for the political correct, okay, we brought in new voting stock for the Liberals. Now that they've done their job of bringing people in, okay, well, here's what we can do. We'll take down some military bases, active military barracks or whatever, kick the military guys out, and whatever. It's just a mess what they've done with the Syrian refugees. But when Canadians see Syrian refugees getting free dental care, free eye care, free this, free that, when Canadians can't get, again, take care of your citizens first. That's what most people are saying. Take care of us before you worry about them. They did it for political correct reasons. They did it for voting reasons. They did it for, like mass immigration. One of the main goals is to take out nationalism. They don't want nationalists. They don't want people proud of their country, because if they did, then they might vote against these globalist government policies that usually lead to people doing things better for their country and taking pride in their country. Want to go out, Goof? Kind of wet out there. I'm not going out there. You can go out there if you want, but I'm not going out there. My dog's like, hell no, I'm not going out there. But I'll leave the door open for you anyway. Hopefully the rain will calm down a bit and I can take you out for a pee. Yeah, poor dog. But anyway, she's like, probably good. That dog can hold it for like the whole day. It's amazing, that dog. Like not you want to go outside if it's raining? Nope, she'll hold it all day. She doesn't want to get wet. Determination, anyway. So anyway, yeah. So the problem. Those are some of the problems that we have. And there's much more to list. Now we don't have the problem like the States with the crime from immigrants, because yeah, we do have some illegals in Canada. There's no doubt about that. But it's not to the degree like the States is dealing with. The big thing is, if you want the illegals to go away, you cut off the welfare. If you come in illegally, we give you nothing. You register, you let us know you're here, know your intentions, whatever. But the thing is this idea that immigrants come in and you give them all this free stuff, that needs to go away from the immigration system. If people come here and they earn their own keep and they earn their own way, yeah, you can't really fault that. But that said, do we really need that much people? And then the last one is the demographic change. If you change the demographics too much, you will change the culture. If you change the culture, you change the country. Now, there's another problem with multiculturalism that nobody wants to talk about, but I think is becoming blatantly obvious. Particularly if you're bringing in massive amount of people like that, 500,000 people of all different ethnicities and whatever, the way the Canadian system is when Pierre Elliott Trudeau got it, we used to take most of our immigrants from Europe. And then he said, no, we're going to go multicultural. So now we take a majority from like China, India, Pakistan, Somalia, and wherever. And I guess pretty soon it'll be Syria, all that. And very little European immigration. Now, in argument, most people say, no, it's because Europeans don't migrate to Canada in the masses because they got about the same standard of living, so there's no reason for them to come here. Most of them, it's a European choice, where there are a lot of Europeans that want to move here, trust me. But we saw like a flux of Irish come in there after 2008, that type of thing. But the Irish are going to integrate very well in Canada. Why? They can speak English, that type of thing. So that kind of thing, you can look at it and say, okay, well, we understand that. But it's still the same problem. I mean, I'm part Irish, so I'm not dissing Irish or whatever. But it's the same problem for all. Can we really, what can we do for them here? That type of thing. It's the same problem. They're now coming in competing with the jobs with Canadians, right? So it's not, to me, it's not really of where you come from. And that's why I'm using the Irish. I'm picking on my own, right? That type of thing. But it's the concept that we don't need anybody right now, let alone tens of thousands of people from third world countries that don't even speak English. And Trudeau has also just changed it so that people over the age of 50 can come to Canada. They don't have to learn to speak French or English, whatever. What are they going to do when they get here? They're just going to be on welfare. I mean, some of them might work, but we'll have to look at the stats and compare them. Again, the reason why our immigration system was working so well with that many people coming in was because the standard was that there was a point system that, you had to hit. The higher your skill level, the more, like if you could speak English, you got so many points. If you had, skills, working skills of some sort, you got more points, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we were taking the better stock of immigrant. Now, the previous Liberal government was, like anything, refugees go to the front of the line. So everybody claims refugee status, whether they're a refugee or not. Under the Harper government, if you claimed the refugee status and you weren't, you didn't get into the country. It was first come, first served, but it was a better system. So Trudeau now is going to dismantle that system, probably go back to the way it was. And on top of that, add third world immigration as multiculturalism, which, again, you're bringing in people that are going to go on a welfare system and vote for the free stuff, which, trust me, the cultural Marxist, progressive, the reason why they do that, a lot of people don't see the long con in this. What it is these people will live like rats because they come from third world countries where they were. So they're willing to rough it. So you probably promise them a little bit of free stuff and they don't have to get up in the morning and work for it. Yeah, sure, they'll live off the $600 a month welfare or whatever. Okay, fine. But these people won't own property. They won't own anything. So you get all the resources. The government gets bigger. But the problem is at some point, which I think the tax burden on Canadians is already high enough now that, I forget, somebody just, basically added up everything. Like, you're going to be paying, depending on, a few things, depending on your income, you're going to be paying anywhere between 45 and 80% tax in Canada. If you add up all your expenses, everything you buy has 15% tax on it, that type of thing, roughly for the, goods and services tax and all that. And the taxes are going, then your personal income taxes or whatever. But it's going to get to the point where people are making so little that they're not, like people like me, I'm not even in a tax bracket yet. I don't make enough. People think YouTubers make a lot of money. Some do. Some do. I don't make very much. So there's that problem. So right now, okay, I'm not using the tax system. I'm not, not a burden on the tax system. But I'm not contributing to the tax system unless I buy stuff. That's the only time I can, right now. Now, mind you, I'm just on the line where I'm going to start paying taxes. Most of my life, and I've seen my income come down quite a bit too. Now, mind you, moving into the middle of nowhere, my income has come down just because of the employment isn't gainful here. But almost every year, I owed $2,500, $1,600, $1,000, that type of thing for the past 20 some odd years. And even when I worked minimum wage jobs, it got to the point where when I was working 3 minimum wage jobs at a time, I made too much, believe it or not, on 3 minimum wage. But there were some hours. You have to understand, there's like 160 hours in a week. There were some hours I was working 103 hours. I mean, I didn't sleep at all. And it was all shift work, so it was just brutal. I don't think I could do it now, but that was in my 20s, during a recession. And then one year they're like, okay, well, we're going to take $1,800 from you in tax. I'm like, what? They said, yeah, I didn't have an RSP. I didn't know about that stuff. It was in my 20s, right? So anyway, long story short, it was like they were punishing me for working too much. I'm like, well, how do you gain any wealth? You know what I mean? If you keep punishing people like that. Now, people that are like making more than $12,000 a year in Quebec, I don't know what it is in Ontario and other provinces. That's where your taxation starts to go, and I think it goes from like $12,000 to like $25,000 or $35,000. Then you go into another bracket, and after that, by that time they're taking like half of your income. You know what I mean? Like, it's really ridiculous. It's really ridiculous because government is just too big, and all these newcomers, again, there's so many other problems that we have to, I'm not going to be able to get it all. But the idea that they are a burden on the Canadian taxpayer. It's not natural immigration where people are coming in and, they're just like they used to, okay, here, you're here with nothing but your maybe bag of tools in a suitcase, make your way from there. I'm not against helping people to settle in, but it gets to the point where these people will just settle into ghettos. So there's no use bringing them in so fast. The other thing is when they get here, they can just go live where they want. Where I don't think that should be allowed because it doesn't force people to integrate. If they just go back to their little communities, it's like they never left their country. Now, the problem with that is that eventually it does create ghettos. Where you get ghettos, you get crime. And the crime stats in Canada are at all-time lows. So right now, it's not too bad. But as the immigration weakens, you're going to see that it's going to go up. In Canada, like anywhere else, the more multicultural you get, the more clashes you're going to get. Like the Sikh community will, kind of fight with the Muslim community a bit, that type of thing. Why? Because I've always said this too, and I noticed this when I was younger. It's like, how long is it before you take refugee A and B from the same country who were fighting each other back then, and they start fighting each other here? You see it with Israelis and Muslims as well, that type of thing. Some of the Asian, East Asian countries, like the Japanese and the Chinese, they don't really bug each other in Canada, but that they don't like each other, you know what I mean? Asian people typically don't like each other. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just Asian people hate each other. They hate each other. If they're not from if they're not from, like, if they're from India, they're not from the same part of India, like, they hate each other. It's weird. I remember Russell Peters was doing a joke on it. It's like, I think I kind of noticed the theme there, and he was right. He says, two white dudes. He says, you get a white dude from one end of the country, another white dude from the other end of the country. Hey, how's it going? Good. Where are you from? Yeah. Want to get a beer? Okay, yeah. He says, you get two guys from India. He goes, oh, where are you from? I'm from this part. Where are you from? Oh, you're from this. Oh, go screw yourself. You're a bastard, whatever. It's like, okay, he's joking, but he's telling the truth. He is kind of telling the truth. Asians don't like each other. I don't know why it is. So at some point, yes, there will be culture clashes in, look at in Germany there with the Kurds and the Turks protesting in the tens of thousands in the middle of German streets. Again, you have two foreigners, basically, okay, and some of them, the worst part is they're not foreigners, they were born there, but they're not integrated in German society. And this is something that the Germans are slowly waking up to, that, multiculturalism has really failed there. Yeah, for Canada, unless we get a nationalist government in the next, say, 4 to 8 years, hopefully in the next 4 years, but we need a nationalist party. The problem is the nationalist party we do have is still sitting in 1933 Germany. They haven't really, I went on their website. Yeah, there's points and stuff like that they make, but they're not points that are going to align with Canadian generalized values. But I do know these are topics that Canadians definitely want out in the mainstream, which we'll never cover it because, again, the CBC is pro-leftist, and that means that they're all for multiculturalism. They're part of that religious. That's like the preacher of this progressive religion is the mainstream media, right? So you just look at it a little bit different, but you get the concepts. So they're not going to help Canada. They're not going to bring up immigration issues. They'll just say, unless they can spin it as xenophobic or racist bigot, they don't bring it up. The idea is to guilt you to just keep giving the sovereignty of your country away to people who won't integrate. Now, that said, for the immigrants that do integrate well, they are plus. I had one guy, say, well, hey, I've hired people, I came here and made a life for myself, and I've hired people. How many people have you hired? Well, sure, you kind of got me there, but, I'm not, mind you, I give work that I would get for myself, I give to other people, so I don't know if that counts, but, okay, we'll say he got me. But still, you're not, let's say, just for bizarre sake, every European finds an African country that they really like, and for some reason, everybody starts moving there, in a 250,000 a year, on a population that's, say, way less than that. Jamaica, we'll use Jamaica. Let's say, 10 million Europeans move to Jamaica. Well, then the Jamaicans are no longer a majority in their country, right? Their whole society and value system is going to change. They're not going to like it. That type of thing. So when you look at it like that, it's the same anywhere you go. People want homogeneity in their country. And the immigration system we have now is definitely getting worse under the Trudeau government. And half a million people per year is just way too many. It's just way, way too many. Obviously, there's no point in, you can call the government and complain about the immigration system, but they're not going to do anything with it. And the problem with the Conservative Party is they're globalists, so they like the cheap labor. So one likes the cheap labor, the other one likes the big welfare system. So, rock in a hard place, and bad for Canadian natural Canadian citizens, and all that stuff. So, again, without a nationalist party that would put Canadians first, shut off the immigration system for at least a decade. We're at the point here in Canada where we don't have to kick anybody out yet. But at some point, we're going to be like in France, Germany, even the States, England, all these places, Britain, the whole UK, all of Europe. They're going to have to start repatriating people that are flooding in. And it's not an easy task. There's no doubt about that. But you have to round people up, kick them out. The easiest way to get people to leave is cut off the welfare system. If you cut off the welfare system, the migrant crisis, pretty much 80% of it goes away. Because that's what most people are doing, is coming in for free stuff. The actual jihadist aspect of it, well, that's going to be the culture clash. And I talk about that quite a bit on the channel, and you can see it. I mean, anybody turning a blind eye to it now is just like, you can only scapegoat excuses for a crocodile chewing off somebody's arm until you just come to the realization it's a crocodile chewing off somebody's arm, right? And that's what you have with the migrant crisis. You have all these jihadis. Oh, but there's women and children. I mean, just look at these freaking boatloads of North Africans. There's not a woman and child among them. These are all fighting-aged men. Most of them probably are there just for the welfare. But still, if one in every 1,000 of them is basically a jihadist, you got. And right now, I think in Germany they're estimating there's up to 43,000 jihadists in Germany. What could possibly go wrong? It's like, yeah, you have to protect your borders or you're not going to have it. And for the libertarians, while there are no borders, whatever, again, the problem with the libertarians is the same problem with the globalists, same problem with the cultural Marxists, is that they don't see that with the libertarians are like, well, if you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. That's fine. But conquerors and communists don't leave libertarians alone. That's what they don't understand. You have to have a protected border. Now, that said, the Donald Trump thing going on in the States at the current making of this video, with the walls up. Yes, Israel has a wall. Nobody brings up that hypocrisy. They're building a wall in Syria and Jordan. Nobody brings up that hypocrisy. And the United States is paying for those walls too, pretty much. So, do walls work? Do they don't? I don't know if the walls actually work. I don't really think it's a practical thing. I think better border security, sure, you could do that. You could do that up here in Canada. But I would also say the best thing is just cut off the welfare. And for people who work illegally in your country, find the company that hires them, find them $10,000 a head. Trust me, the problem goes away like that. Make an example of a few, then people come through the front door. Make it impossible to do things illegally. Or not impossible, but make it not, risk versus reward, make it not rewardable. That's one thing you need to do as national government. So if somebody came here illegally, you detain them until you can find out who they are. If you never find out who they are, they're detained for the rest of their life. The cost of a few that you would make examples of, and you would let the world know that you did that, trust me, would stop the mass immigration. It would stop illegal immigration. Legal immigration, again, bring people from anywhere in the world to Canada. I'm okay with that, but we just don't need 250,000. What do we need? Well, to tell you the truth, right now we don't need anybody. So we have to cut it off for at least a decade to make up for the last 40 years of mass immigration. I mean, our demographic has changed by a quarter. Now, people, well, yeah, but it's great because we've got diversity. Yeah, but diversity is division. A lot of people don't realize that. If you bring people in too fast, they're not going to integrate. And again, it's not that you're against people coming in from everywhere or anywhere specific. It's that, again, I'll use the Irish as an example. Being Irish too, it's like, okay, well, right now, again, bringing Irish people here or German people or British people or whatever, I have nothing against those people, obviously not. We do share a lot of cultural things. But the thing is that there's not going to be enough work for you. And if we have to, pay for, welfare for you when you're here, again, even if you do get a job, you're now taking that job from an indigenous Canadian. That type of thing. And I would say the same for your country. Like for Germany, there's no reason for Germany to there's no reason for a European country to take in any immigration at all. Somebody just, Europe itself, 540 million people. I mean, they're stacked on top of each other. They're full. They're full. They got to start kicking people out because it's that or they're going to have a war. And I mean, you have to look. The war's already begun. It's just one side's fighting, the other one hasn't quite kicked in that it's a war. These jihadists are attacking left, right, and center, and those are going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I think as it does, then people come to the realization that, okay, well, we're going to have to do some tough immigration. But it's beyond that now. I mean, they're at war. Europe is at war with, pretty much the Islamic world. All Muslims, no. But there's definitely a problem there. And again, it only takes a handful to get things going, right? That type of thing. So again, you can look at, oh, the racist, bigot, whatever. But you're not even in the conversation at that point, because you've missed the important part of it. The important part of it is very simple. It's a culture clash. This group does not integrate with this group. This group does not integrate with the country, whatever. And when you get that, and what Europe is doing instead is, well, we'll just appease them. We'll just appease them. So your demographics are going to change, and your culture is going to change. And your culture is going to change. You no longer have the value, your core values that you once had. And trust me, it's not going to enrich your culture. That type of thing. Taking on Sharia law does not. And we're doing it here in Canada, too, to be politically correct. Oh, well, we can't demonize, we can't do... No, here's the rules, follow it, fit in or fuck off. That's the way most Canadians view it. Even if most won't say it out loud, that's the way most Canadians view it. But I can guarantee you, you could have a nationalist government make immigration one of its top priorities to restore balance to the country by cutting off the mass immigration for sure. If we need people, we'll bring people in, first come, first served. We don't care where you come from, but these are the rules. If these rules offend you, perhaps this is not the country for you. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. But if you want to integrate into our lovely society, here's the rules. They're lenient enough that you can go about your business on a daily basis. We just have a few little things, whatever. And if you can deal with that, welcome to the country, be a contributor to the country, that's fine. Again, there's no point in bringing in third world people other than to expand government. That's it. That's the only reason why I do it. And the other thing is third world people will just vote wherever the welfare is. Therefore, you lose nationalism, you lose property, you lose all kinds of stuff like that. So we could see, and the list goes on and on again. I can't cover it all in a short video like this. I know for the ADD-written people in the YouTube thing that complain about minutes being more than 3 minutes long as a long video, no, you can't get into this topic and not talk at least an hour on it. But from a nationalist point of view, if I can get a Canadian First nationalist party started, I probably wouldn't be the guy at the head of the top of it, but just to get the blueprints going, these are kind of the things that would be top priority. Take care of immigration, clean that up right away. That's probably, maybe not the number one priority, but it's up there. It would definitely, by stopping the mass immigration, the $50,000 bonuses to these immigration lawyer firms that get this money, again, coming out of our healthcare system, coming out of our retirement, coming out of the basic core things that Canadians want. Canadians just want to make sure that they're comfortable. And so and I get it. Immigrants just want to come here to, the majority that are coming here statistically are coming here to fit into Canada. Problem is you just can't have a saturation level that high. It will just, change the demographic too much, to the point where all the values that we've built up over the generations will be lost. So if you want to change the demographics, if you want to change the culture, which it will change to very conflicting cultures, again, you can look at Europe as the model with its... anybody that's trying to sell you that there's no immigration problem in Europe right now, I mean, they default on, well, we have to help these people. Yeah, but we can't help ourselves. You know what I mean? We have to take care of ourselves first. I'm not saying we can't have charity. I'm not saying we can't help a few people, but this idea, okay, well, you're going to come here, you're going to be a citizen forever. I think refugees should be sent home after the conflict. I think, okay, well, if we're going to pay for them to come here, no, we don't really need you, so, okay, well, you come here and you may... But then again, to bring them here, again, think of the money that was spent to get 25,000 refugees here. Actual real refugees, and I do believe there are real refugees in Syria, they're from Syria, no problem. Some of the safe zones in Syria could have been better funded. All those air-conditioned tents in Saudi Arabia that doesn't have a single refugee in them. Why did Saudi Arabia even build them? I don't know. They're not letting refugees in. Israel's not letting refugees in. Israel would be the safest place for these refugees to go. Okay, fine. If we're going to do charity, rather than bringing a handful of people here, we could help out a shitload more people there. If we would have spent the same amount of money in build better camps, build better, better medical system, better whatever over there for them. We don't have to uproot the people. That would be the better thing. And when the conflict's over, whatever. But that said, before we even do stuff like that, we have to be able to take care of our own. And clearly, it's getting to the point where, again, seniors, they're losing they don't have enough. There's not enough beds. For the seniors. There's again veterans on the streets. 48% of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck. We can't tax them anymore. Something's got to give. So, do we give the country, or do we save the country and restore nationalism? That's just my take. If you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation to the channel. Links down below. Thank you very much to everybody who has. Don't forget to say your piece on the $1,016 of donations that we've raised for the channel. What would you like to see done with the money? Some people suggested green screens, GoPros, donations, merchandise, man on the street, traveling, save it, make a bigger stockpile, books, various different action cameras, high definition cameras. The list goes on and on and on and on. So make your claim, because around the end of September, I might hold it a little bit longer if there's not enough suggestions. I'll just take little short videos of, if you want to see the money spent on this, give a thumbs up, that type of thing. And the one with the highest thumbs up wins. Thanks for that. Rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself, be true to others. Always do the right thing, and have yourself a great day. I got to trim my mustache to tickle my lip. Hey, hi, and welcome. Boy, it's nice weather for ducks out there. It's raining like crazy. Alright, so I might as well make a video. I don't think I'm going to get too much done today. Alright, I tried to make a video last night, but it didn't come out the way I wanted, so I thought, okay, well, I'll rethink it, see how I can do it. Okay, immigration in Canada. The problem we have with the immigration in Canada is there's way too many people coming in. Now, before you, those who might be joining in, for the first time, okay, we'll just say racist, bigot, all that stuff, xenophobe, homophobe, whatever, phobe, okay, fine. Get that out of the way. But the idea about this is to really get the conversation going, because there really is no conversation on immigration in Canada. And it's done that way purposely by pretty much all parties. Either the parties are altruistic and want to give their country to every starving Marvin out there, or they're globalist and greedy and want to undercut the labor. And we're going to discuss this. I don't think this is good for Canada, and we can see in Europe how multiculturalism and that has failed pretty much big time. I'm not saying nobody's integrated in Europe or whatever, and I'm not saying you can't have any immigration, but the way we used to do it was tap on, tap off. Meaning if we needed people, we brought them in. If we don't need them, we don't bring them in. And right now, we really don't need anybody. We have a shrinking economy, and it's soon to get worse. Canada is now entering what I call the 2008 phase. We never really hit the 2008 crisis like everybody else did, because even though love them or hate them, Harper did have us in a better position to weather that kind of storm. So we were the last ones in the recessions and the first ones out of the recession. And we only dealt with a recession. Some people are dealing with a depression in their countries and still dealing with it. Extreme high unemployment, whatever. Our employment is, I think, 6.9% now. Economy basically shrank by 1.6%. So I think that's going to become the new norm. And, but it's not even just about the economy. There's a lot of points to make here. The first one I'll start with is, what is the Canadian Immigration Act like? Well, with the previous government, we have to go back even a couple of governments. We'll go back to the Pierre Elliott Trudeau government, basically Justin Trudeau's dad. He wanted this multiculturalism thing, so basically opened up the borders basically to bring in 130,000 people a year. And this is back in the 1970s, early 1980s when this happened. And that was a problem. Then we had John Turner and Kim Campbell, and then Brian Mulroney. Or did John Turner, I can't remember if he ever was Prime Minister. I don't think he was. I know we had Kim Campbell for a short time anyway. And then we got Brian Mulroney. Now, Brian Mulroney, under NAFTA, really screwed the country over. Again, it was kind of the beginning of extreme globalism for Canada, which took all the manufacturing here, sent it over to China, or down to the States, that type of thing. And had we not done NAFTA the way it was done, who knows what kind of jobs we would have here now. I think the potential for Canada is better than any country in the world if you turn the economy inward, meaning, low taxes for small businesses, et cetera, et cetera. But we didn't do that. We went with the globalist model. So basically, then Chrétien comes along. He changes the Immigration Act a little bit, and now you have to understand NAFTA does play into this too because of insourcing and outsourcing, which insourcing and outsourcing means no Canadian jobs, lost Canadian. But that was mostly the outsourcing. The insourcing is the immigration coming in, and how that plays out is basically Chrétien, basically the lawyer firms that he's linked to And most of these politicians are lawyers, and that's the problem, is that they keep creating law for the sake of law, but they also find ways to cheat the system. Even Paul Martin did it with the shipping scandals, and they're all a bunch of crooks, right? That's why you need a nationalist party that'll actually take care of the country first, audit these people, put them in jail for their criminal deeds. Just because you change the law to be able to rip people off, you have to look at the morality of the law as well. Is it a just law? Even Pierre Elliott Trudeau, put in some laws that were supposed to be fail-safes, which were not too bad. But that guy did a lot of damage to the country and started the ball rolling. So Chrétien comes along, and with his law firms, immigration law firms, basically you have these law firms that they help. I'm not sure exactly how the $23 billion of our immigration is spent, but one thing I do know is they go through these immigration lawyers or whatever, and when an immigrant becomes a citizen, they get a $50,000 bonus. Now, obviously, that $50,000 bonus is probably not coming from these immigrants. It's probably coming from the taxpayer like you and me. That's why they would want mass immigration. So right there's a scam. It's not in the best interest of the people. Now, the way they sell it is cultural enrichment by multiculturalism. Now, I would like to put this out. Anybody that says multiculturalism enriches us, ask them to clarify. They won't be able to do it. Because it's just a tagline. It's just a buzzword, a slogan that they throw out there. Oh, no, it enriches us. But how? And as we get into this, we'll see. And again, I'm not anti-immigrant. I'm not anti-immigration. But I think it needs to be very... if we don't want to run into the problems that you're seeing in Europe or, in the southern United States borders, stuff like that, we have to have a stricter system. So then Harper comes along, and Immigration Minister Jason Kenney revamps the whole Immigration Act, which I gotta say he did a bang-up job on that. Was it perfect? No, but I thought it was fair. The big problem is he went from 130,000 people coming in to 250,000 people, 250,000. And we bring in even more than that when we don't need these people. So the question is, why are we bringing these people in? Well, some of it was labor. So you could bring in temporary foreign workers for 15% less than a Canadian worker. So what were companies doing? Laying people off and hiring all these foreigners. We saw it in BC. We saw it was the Royal Bank or whichever one it was going to lay off 5,000 people and bring in all these temporary foreign workers. In other words, undercut the labor, which drives wages down. So again, that's bad immigration right there. There's some people out there, yeah, but you have to let, if you drive wages down, it makes things cheaper and better for consumption and stuff like that. But it gets to the point where you can't shop where you work. And the fact that we have a service-based economy, we have very little manufacturing left in Canada. We do have a fair amount, but it's not like what it was. Now, I'm not sure manufacturing is the only future for Canada. Because there are so many unexplored things, such as the internet economy. I mean, I'm a part of it. I didn't even realize it. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that we have to go back to, coal plants and stuff like that. No, but what I'm saying is that the jobs should stay here first. Now, when you hear the argument, well, we have to bring in immigrants